Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's ACY Securities webinar, Live Forex Market Review. My name is Duncan Cooper. Before we get into it, if you could all read through the disclaimer as we're going through the webinar, any questions to the webinar chat or the question and answer box. If you're on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see the chat. So if you're asking questions on YouTube, I cannot answer your questions, but you're more than welcome to follow the link and join us in the webinar. So please, everybody, just take a minute or two just to read through the disclaimer. And a few more people are just coming in, so I'll just leave the disclaimer up there just for a few more moments. All right, let's get into it. Now, if you don't know me, I can see a few names on there that I might not know, so welcome. My name is Duncan Cooper. I'm a Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor here at ACY Securities, and trade the Forex market full-time now. Been trading for more than 15 years, mentoring for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email is there, duncan.cooper@acy.com. Through the week, you can connect with my analysis on our website. Go to acy.com, the Market News tab, or go to our YouTube channel, ACY Securities Australia, or if you connect with me on my Twitter and LinkedIn, you'll get access to my analysis too. It gets put through there as well. Through the week as well, we got our Telegram channel. If you want access to our analysis as it comes out, just get access to it by contacting Nathan. I'll put his details in the chat momentarily. If you want to get access to my chart layouts and templates for MT4, then contact Nathan too. He'll help you set that up. So I'll put his details in the chat. If you need help setting up a demo account, or you want to ask and discuss about setting up a live account, just contact Nathan. That's in the chat there. All right, so first up, let's go and have a look at the news items for the day. So Thursday tonight, 10:30 p.m. Queensland time for the US, we have the final GDP QQ unemployment claims. Could see the market move on those two items for sure. And then into tomorrow evening, 10:30 p.m. for Canada GDP month on month and US core PC price index coming out too. So those are the items for this week. The strong ones for next week that are coming out. Cash rate for the Aussie. We have the FOMC meeting minutes, I believe, in Thursday morning early. And then Thursday evening, ADP non-farm employment change figures, unemployment claims, but then the US job figures Friday, 10:30 p.m. So you can head over to Forex Factory and review what's coming out over the next week too. But today, 10:30 p.m., we've got the final GDP QQ and unemployment claims coming out. So you need to work out whether you want to take a trade before those figures or wait until they come out. I'll just perform some analysis and talk about levels that I'm watching. You can work out when you want to trade or not. So let's get into the charts. First of all, we'll have a look at the dollar index. And, you know, the weekly perspective here, we might be forming a higher bottom. I mean, we have a lower top here, but we could be forming a higher bottom on top of what is day support, which we'll see in a moment on the day chart. So it's a bit consolidatory here. It could still move any which way it wants. On the day chart, this range here is last month's range, and we pull back in between the 62.79% area, starting to get support on this daily level of support 102.36. And we are forming an uptrend there. So are we moving back up to the top? Certainly seeing US dollar strength coming back in, pairs to the US dollar been moving down. Even the pound dollar started to move down, had quite an aggressive sell-off yesterday. So US dollar strength coming in, and still seeing stock market strength too. It's holding above the monthly level of support at 43.23. We did have about 6 or 7 days down here, so I mean, we could form a lower top, but at the moment it's still higher bottom, higher top, higher bottom, holding above monthly support. So still in a clear uptrend there. So The overall, usually if the US dollar is rising, stock markets are usually selling off. We're not quite seeing that yet. So not quite the true correlation that we normally see there. All right, let's get into, first of all, we'll go into the pound. Now on Telegram today, I put out, on the daily chart here, we've started to form now 2 lower tops, and finally we moved to a lower bottom. We actually was holding at 127, but support's broken. Move back below this top 2 at 126.79. So I'm just anticipating we're moving down to day support at 125.44, potentially. And with that in mind, I put out on Telegram today that, my 15-minute chart here yesterday, we were holding above support and then we suddenly dropped, creating an imbalance here. So we could come back to fill that level if we want to. So that's the area I'm watching. I'm watching broken weekly support, last week's low, this area here. Now, whether or not we can get up there, because at the moment we're not getting up there. But that's the level I'm watching. Might get up there after the US news. This is the most opportune, strong resistance level on the chart at the moment. So that would be a great level to watch for price to come back to, hold, to move down from. Could also watch the central pivot point because we're not getting back to there either at the moment. So when the US news comes out, do we jump up, hold for a move down? Pound yen. The chart still in a clear uptrend, as I was discussing in the webinar yesterday about Fibonacci. This is way overextended, but it is still holding its trend. The monthly trend is up, overextended. We've moved above the last resistance level, 180.41. Weekly trend very much overextended. And the day charts pulling back for a day and a half, are just managing to hold maybe on top of day support. So if you're prepared to buy at such high levels, then day support, broken resistance becomes support here. Is that holding as support to continue the move? For our charts, we'll have like a 62% retracement potentially here. Perhaps a 7% retracement on today's support. Are we holding there now for another 4-hour continuation pattern? Discussed those last night in the webinar. Are we moving up like so? So you need to make a decision. Are we holding there at the 79% level? We're currently trading at the 62 level to move up in line with the overall dominant trend that we've been seeing. So if you're prepared to be a buyer at such high levels, this could be the time that you need to be looking for your setup. All right, just pulled up fraction. It didn't actually trade down to support, fraction short. So the buyers are coming in there just ahead of support and the 7% fib. So are we holding there now to move up? All right, so that, the news might spike you down into that level later in the day, but that's the level to watch if you want to watch a level to get tested. We might not get down there. You can see we've come down, held, tried to come down again today, and we're holding above. So maybe we can't get down to quite that level and we're starting to move up. You need to make a decision. What is your setup to buy if you're looking for a buy there? Why is somebody asking, can I please use the Fibonacci tool with a chart? Well, I have on that one. I can only draw them where appropriate. So where appropriate, I will draw them. So moving on from last night's webinar to help you. All right, so that's the pound crosses. Let's go into the euro dollar crosses. And I discussed this in last night's Fibonacci webinar that we might have a head and shoulder pattern forming here. Day charts, left shoulder there, head, right shoulder forming there for a lower top. It's much more clear as seen on the 4-hour chart here. Now, I never gave it another retest yesterday, but we've been moving down in a downtrend now on the 4-hour chart too. So on the day chart, I'm expecting that we're continually moving down within the larger fib range to move down to test support and move to the 127 extension within the fib tool. Now on the 4-hour chart, the 4-hour trend is now turned down. So if I just move that fib over, you could be looking for a rally at the moment on the 4-hour chart. Just looking at the chat because Azu's asking me questions and then he's asking me more things. But I think I just answered your question there for the Eurodollar. My target's down here at 107.98, pretty much 108.100 at the moment in regard to this fib tool and the head and shoulder pattern. Now, we've moved to a downtrend on the 4-hour chart. We may see some form of corrective move back up in the short term. So I like to monitor that on the 15. So there's the 4-hour range at the moment. You know, I would be monitoring the 62 level and the 79% level at the moment. 62, 109.30, 79%, 109.44. Can price come up to hold at either one of those levels and then start to turn over? Do you see you're set up to sell, to trade down? Those are the most logical levels when using the fib tool to see price retrace back to. So I'll be watching those levels to see if price can be traced back to, and then can you engage the downside? Okay. All right, Euro Yen, still in a very large uptrend. It hasn't quite got to a weekly resistance at the moment. Now, the most recent resistance level, 156.925, has been broken. And that could be support on a pullback. So monitor that level. If you're prepared to buy at such high levels, like we were just discussing the pound yen, this is very high levels, very overextended on the daily, weekly, monthly charts. If you're still prepared to be a buyer, then look for a pullback to support. So on the 4-hour, you could be monitoring a pullback. And 62 is just underneath supports. So supports at 156.92, 62 levels at 156.60. So and there's a 4-hour area of support there at 156.70. So this area here for a pullback would be ideal if it can pull back. For myself at the moment, I'm not trading these yen pairs that are so overextended personally, because I just feel they're so overextended. Doesn't mean to say they can't go up, because clearly they've still gone up this week. But I would much prefer to be a buyer on these pairs if they have firstly a healthy correction. So if you're prepared to be a buyer, look for a pullback to that 62 level, 4-hour support, 156.60. And that's the area down there, the green pivot point area, if we can get down there today. All right. I'll just leave that on there on the 4-hour chart. Euro pound, moving into an uptrend from this weekly, monthly support area over here. It's getting, you know, when we went through the fib tool yesterday, it is getting to the top of the move at the moment within the most recent fib. We've pulled back to the 79. We're getting closer testing the 127 extension. So really, I'd be waiting for this to top out and pull back before then looking for another opportunity. If I was to move that to the 4-hour chart, you know, the day chart movement that we've been seeing, just on the 4-hour chart so we can see more price action that's going on intraday. We've pulled back to the 79. That's the upward move. Now, I'd be now looking to see if this comes up to 127 extension to top out. And then redraw my fib across that new range. And then monitor the next pullback for a buying opportunity. Okay. So at the moment for me, it's just getting it into the profit taking phase, the topping out phase. But I don't want to trade against the trend that I'm seeing there on the day chart. I would wait for the next pullback to occur. Okay. All right, let's get into Aussie yen. Now, I have been saying all month, this is the monthly chart, that we could form a right shoulder up here at this high where we false broke last year. we're definitely rejecting that area. So that top up there is at 96.87. This weekly trend is up. So whilst we are selling off from that level, maybe we just have 1 or 2 weeks pullback. We'll have to wait and see. We are starting to ask the question, are we moving below this 95.73 weekly level? And I put out in Telegram today, watch that level to be resistance today, intraday to move down from. To the daily chart, we're having a downtrend forming now. We've moved below weekly support 95.73 and daily support 95.55. So on Telegram, I put out to watch those 2 levels to be resistance today, to rally back to, look for an opportunity to sell to continue this day chart downtrend. This day chart downtrend could move back to the last level of broken weekly resistance, which could be support now over here at 93.03. And this is where the break started to occur for that strong trend. So we all often come back to the point of the break. We could even come back to this area here if we really want to. That's really where it started to break. But the level of major level of resistance broken was here, 93.03. So that could be, as we look to the next 2 weeks of trading, that could be a great level of support to look to be a buyer for the long term. Don't forget on these yen pairs, even though this is looking a little bit negative at the moment, for the Aussie yen, there's definitely the carry trade still there. Interest rates are higher on the Aussie side to the yen side. So we could have a healthy correction, but the long-term trend still remains up on the weekly, monthly charts. Well, on the weekly chart, the monthly trend's still down, but the weekly trend there that's been forming, this very massive uptrend, we may just need a healthy correction down. Back to the weekly. Just wanted to see where the last major swing point was. It's still down here. I thought there may have been one in here, but there's not. So I'm just watching longer term for maybe a buying opportunity at a lower level. In the short term, I put out today, look for a selling opportunity. Would price stop at the pivot point in day resistance, or would it stop up here at weekly resistance now? And it just stopped just short of weekly resistance. All right. So through the day, you may see another test up here and a failure. Can you see a tight entry to get in? Or now that we move below daily, back below daily resistance, you may see price maybe pull back a bit more, come back up to test and hold, central pivot point there too, and then look for an opportunity to trade down. Looks like we've just been moving back up a little bit inside the range of yesterday, starting to hold at the resistance levels, and maybe we're moving below the 95 level over time, down towards the 93 level. All right, Aussie dollar. Looks like we've had a complete false break up here at the moment, but CPI came out weaker yesterday, suggesting we might not get an interest rate hike, which we moved up on the basis that we're all getting excited about further interest rate hikes. Maybe we're not going to get one next week down, but that has changed the weekly trend to up. And this could just be a pullback to support here, which could be forming a left shoulder inverse head, right shoulder here. So today charts, that's the major fib range for the weekly charts. And the 79% level is just underneath where we could be having a left shoulder head, right shoulder formation. So I would be clearly watching this area for support. If that shows support, then that very strong move up, which changed the weekly trend that way, could simply now be retracing down to find a higher bottom on the weekly charts to move back up this way. All right. So this is in my mind, if you want to be a seller, this is pull back to, from a weekly perspective, the buy zone. It's below the 62 level, trading down support in the 79% level. That's the buy zone if the weekly trend is going to remain in play. So with that in mind, I don't know if I want to be selling down there. Of course, we can keep moving down. But I'm just looking at structure. the fib levels. I'd be more inclined to wait to see what happens down at 65.73. Does that start to hold? All right, so on the 4-hour chart, yes, we're in a downtrend, and we discussed this last night. If you want to trade the trend down from the 4-hour chart perspective, draw a fib from high to low. Look for a pullback to the 62 level or 79. 62 level overlaps with broken day support at 66.74. So if you're looking for a sell, the best level would be, we've moved down. You think we can continue down to actually hit support, but we need to rally first. Watch for a pullback to broken day support being resistance, 66.74, 62% fib in the same area at 66.72. And then look to construct a short here to trade down into the support level. And then if support starts to hold, you could be looking to trade it back up. All right. That's what I'll be looking for there. All right, we covered the euro pairs, we covered the pound pairs. Let's get into New Zealand. And whilst to the day chart, while euro yen, pound yen are very strong, still moving up this week. The New Zealand yen has moved up further this week, but of course the Aussie yen's declining, a little bit weak on the day chart there. And we're seeing a little bit of weakness over the last day on the day chart here for New Zealand. It's still, major swings are still high tops and bottoms. This is just a pullback in the short term. And drawing a fib would be across that range on the day chart. So we pull back to the 62. Now we could hold at the 62 here and move back up above these levels of resistance. But what I don't like is the fact that we had a very heavy sell down yesterday. And if we move to the monthly chart, we're failing these two highs here. Yes, of course, we've been above all these highs this week, but yesterday we sold back below. So clearly, any little bit of negativity coming out of the market with the CPI data being very lower yesterday, that gave negativity to the Aussie dollar, Aussie yen, which translated into negativity for New Zealand yen, New Zealand dollar. So we could see a complete false break of these highs, even though, you would say we are in an uptrend, but we could just false break and move back down to support. All right. In terms of the fib roadmap, we are actually at the profit taking area of the fib tool up there. Pulled back to the 62, we've hit the 127 extension. That's why I say I'm not buying at the 127 extension for a continued move up. We're seeing selling pressure there. That's where people are taking their profits. And then what that is causing is a move back below the resistance levels. So at the moment, the weekly trend is up. We're probably going to see a pullback within this range, which you can quite clearly see there, better view there on the day chart. That's the weekly range. We could be pulling back to the 62 now on the 79%. So I would be looking for that move down, and I would be looking for weakness to maybe trade downwards towards the 62, 79% levels. What I'd like to see is last year's high here at 88.16. Can we simply come up to retest this level and hold and fail? Of course, he would try to move above. Very aggressive sell-off yesterday. So do we simply come up to 88.16 now? Can you see it hold? Can you see it set up to sell on a lower time frame to move down? And are we moving downwards in the short term within that weekly fib tool, seeing a retracement down to the 62 level or the 79% level? Okay. You can start to watch to see if that maps out. All right, Kalonzo, I'll look at the Euro Aussie at the end for you. All right, getting into now. Timothy, it doesn't mean that price cannot extend to the 162 level. It could. But we are false breaking major resistance highs. So when you see a false break of the highs, it's certainly giving you a less chance that it can get to the 162. price can do anything it wants. So it is still in an uptrend on the day chart. It could still extend to the 162 level of the weekly range if it really wants to, but just seeing the weakness there of it yesterday, selling down and not holding above those 2 monthly highs is showing weakness to the upside at the moment. Right, New Zealand dollar. Now, this has been the weakest of the pairs to the US dollar, and I've been discussing this failure here at the 62% level, potentially putting in a lower top. I actually put out as we were coming into the area that we had overlapping fibs across two ranges. So we have the weekly range, 62 level there. We had this range, and there was a 79% level overlapping with the 62. So we had overlapping fibs there, which just becomes a stronger fib level area that the market can hold at. And of course, from that level, we've been starting to put in downtrend. So in all events, all things being equal at the moment now, we are potentially seeing a lower top forming on the weekly. And I put the fib back in from our lesson yesterday on fibs. This is a prime example of what I taught you last night. We've rallied up to the 62 level. I'll move to the day chart so we can see it clearer. Up to the 62. Are we now moving down to test supports and moving down to 127 extension? All right. That's the roadmap. It is only a roadmap. It doesn't mean say price is going to do that, but it's a clear roadmap that you can start to watch price unfold towards. And, you know, as that's unfolding, I would be looking for rallies on lower time frames for shorting opportunities in line with that roadmap that we're seeing. All right. Now on the day chart fib roadmap, we are at the 127 extension. So I would expect that we will potentially have a rally at the moment, and I would be monitoring now this range from high to low. All right. So if I show you from the 4 hour, the last daily range that we had. All right, we rallied up to the 79% level, coinciding with daily resistance. Moved down to the 127 extension. It could get to the 162, yes, but more often than not, this area is where it fails. So now I would now be monitoring. Can price rally? They want to delete that. So I can price rally now back up to the 62.79% area to offer you then another shorting opportunity, 62 or the 79. All right, that's what I would look for. Whilst price can still move down, it's in the profit-taking phase of that day chart fib tool. So there's a higher chance it's going to move back up. So don't be a seller low down. Look for the next retracement to occur and then look to sell at the end of that rally. Kalonzo, you're asking me, since Aussie CPI on Tuesday was negative, could the RBA hold interest rates? And if so, how could it affect the Aussie? Will we see a sell-off or basically hawkish hold? The Aussie will skyrocket. Well, I don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday. The market's probably selling off, anticipating that we won't get an interest rate decision. So that being said, if we don't get an interest rate decision, we probably won't sell down too much more because the market's already factoring it in. So if we don't get an interest rate decision that rises, we probably won't do too much. If we get a rise, then we'll skyrocket up because I think the market's pretty much anticipating that we won't get a rise after that CPI data. Okay. So, I mean, they could come out and say a hawkish hold. That could potentially offer bullish price action for the Aussie for sure. I think the market's pricing in a hold with no interest rate hike Could be a hold, no interest rate hike, and a hawkish comment. We'll have to wait and see. If there's anything really hawkish, of course, price will potentially go up. At the moment, the market's selling the idea that there's no rate rise, and they might be looking for a much more dovish tone that all things are improving on the CPI front, and we may not need any more rate rises. So we'll just have to wait and see. All right, so if you're getting your head around the fib though range and the roadmap from yesterday's lesson, hopefully you can understand that on this particular pair, we're not, we are, let me get rid of the fib at the moment. In the most recent fib where price is, we're at the profit end of the move where people take profits. So I don't, this isn't where I sell. I wait for the next move up, okay? And then look to sell. All right, dollar Canadian, we probably bottoming here because, if I do any fib work here, we're more than beyond the 127 extension. See where we put a lower top in here. We've moved down almost to the 162 level. So that's over, in terms of fib ranges, that's overextended and needs a retracement. So I would be monitoring this most immediate range now. I just want to see what the ranges are on the weekly. I'm on the weekly. So the most immediate weekly range, I'm going to monitor a pullback against that range now. All right, now we're moving, or we're testing monthly support that was becoming resistance here. It became resistance last week here, but this is just a little bit suggestive that we might be moving back above that level in the short term to trade back up within the range of that weekly range. All right. So now, once we got overextended, I think this may well be moving back up to here or towards here. There's an imbalance in here. So, a setup to the upside, if this day chart trend can start to hold to the upside, would be more the go. But at the moment, I'd need to see things develop more. By the end of the day, if we clearly close and reject monthly resistance still, then maybe we can't rally. So I'm just looking for a signal to do something. I think this, in all logical perspective, will move this way up the range to then, potentially form a lower top on the weekly chart. So I think it's higher probability that we'll move up because the overextension. Then what is your setup? Maybe to be a buyer if you want to on a lower time frame. And the 4-hour chart, let's have a look. This could still hold. It's just testing last week's high. It could hold at this resistance level to move down. So I need some more information at the moment. But logically, it would be a move higher over the next week. We'll have to wait and see where this week finishes, first of all. All right, so I haven't not got any kind of setup there that I'm watching at the moment, but just a general note that we're overextended on the weekly and we could be having a weekly pullback within the range. Dollar franc. Said down here on Tuesday, watch 89.26 to be further tested and maybe offer support, which it's been doing. And we could retest. They're still very much, I wouldn't try. Trading this pair is very difficult at the moment. It's trading in less than 100 pip range. 76 pips in range. So there are better pairs to trade at the moment, but trading this pair, support's coming in at 89.26, monthly support, and resistance is up here at 90.02. So those are the boundaries to look to trade up or down from, okay, at the moment. But really, I would look to another pair that's just showing you a better trend. Dollar yen's continuing its carry trade look. All right. It's just moving above the last level of daily resistance over here. Next day level of resistance is here. $145.10.5. So I like to look for pullbacks to support. So the last level broken, 143.52 is now your day support. So I would logically look for a pullback to that area. 4-hour fib range at the moment for a pullback is there. 79% level overlaps with the day support level at 143.58 down to 143.52. So that would be the area that I would look for a pullback if it can pull back. All right. Like the euro, yen, and pound yen, this is, quite overextended, but it just keeps motoring on because of the carry trade perspective. Okay. So look to buy a dip if you're prepared to be a buyer at such high levels. And, buying a dip back to day support is always the best option. And that's at 143.58 to 143.52. Okay. Let's have a look at gold, which is, when price action was getting really horrible up here, I've had this area of imbalance here drawn in for many weeks, and it's looking like price is heading down towards the area. So, finally 1959, maybe 2 weeks ago now, became resistance, and we're moving below the next level of support from over here. All right, just keeps moving down. This triple top is becoming much more apparent. So we could, if this triple top holds and it's the thing that's driving price action, we could be moving back down to retest 1614. So to the day chart, seeing a downtrend here. It's a little bit overextended. I would be dragging a fib from high, keep pulling it down to the current low and watch for a retracement back up, and then look for the opportunity to sell. Okay. At the moment, it just keeps dribbling down, and maybe it doesn't want to retrace back up within that range that I've drawn. It's quite a large range. Maybe price action just wants to come back up, retest now broken weekly support, and hold to continue its move down. All right. Just starting to have a bit of a look about gold now that there's not too many buyers coming in within price action. Slav, asking me, am I not tempted to short it with the range? I don't trade gold, so I'm not tempted to, because I just don't trade gold. If I was, I can clearly see this triple top, which could unfold to the downside. But that triple top, though, I could see that happening up here. So this is not an instrument that I trade. But if it was an instrument that I trade, I would be looking, I would have been all over it up here, because this was the time to get short up here. And that's been proven because we've had some awful price actions through here. But if you got short at the most optimum time up here, see when we move back below and it retested and held, that was the opportune time to short. And then through this horrible price action, it wasn't bothering you. There's still plenty of time to short it if we're moving down to the 16 area. But I'd much prefer to short the euro dollar or the pound dollar rather than trade gold, because price action is, to me, when I look at gold price action a lot of time, it's just very unfavorable on a lower time frame. Whereas, of course, if you're looking at, say, the euro dollar or the pound dollar, price action generally is quite favorable intraday. A lot more favorable in terms of its consistency rather than looking at gold in my mind, but that's just my opinion. So, but it does look like price action is getting a lot nicer. It doesn't look like the buyers are coming in and fighting anymore. Just looks like it's, price action is starting to move down. You can see this whole 4-hour choppy sideways action. Price action now, the 4-hour chart is much more declining. All right. So that's gold. We may see a hefty rally because it's overextended on the day chart range. All right. The last day chart range on the fib tool was here. 79% retracement, and we're at the 127 extension. That's why I'm saying it's due a pullback. So monitor for a pullback. Okay. All right, now I got asked about the EURAUD, so I'll pull that one up for a last review. All right, so the monthly trend is up. We're just had a pullback, and we're obviously rejecting support here. $159.78. All right, just put my monthly levels in. Weekly trend is just turning up, but it is at weekly resistance. I mean, it could hold there, weekly resistance if it wants to, but it looks like a monthly chart's pulled back and we're heading up, and the weekly trend's going to flip to up, 165.15. Day chart, it's very overextended. Where it is right now, you know, I can see the monthly trend is up, the weekly trend's turning to up potentially, and the day trend is quite clearly up. But where it's positioned right now is not a great area to be a buyer. You know, from a day chart perspective, I'd like to see maybe a pullback of 1 or 2 days. For our charts, a little bit that's overextended too. So, you know, if this is just going to continue the trend, watch for a pullback on the 4-hour chart to 62, 79% level, and then look for a setup to be a buyer to continue the uptrend. That's how I would be looking at the EURAUD there. All right, Kalonzo, hopefully that helped you. I mean, there's always a possibility that we hold it with that weekly resistance there and get a reversal, trade down, if that's what you're looking at. I'm not quite sure what your perspective is, but you know, it's looking quite bullish from the monthly perspective. It's just now having to test weekly resistance to move further up. I would look for a pullback there on the 4-hour chart and then assess, does that pullback hold for a further move up? All right, great. All right, everybody, any final questions? I just want to go and have maybe a quick click on see what the Aussie yen's doing. Nothing much changed. And the euro dollar, not yet got up to 62.79. Pound dollar doesn't seemingly have the legs to get up to that 126.79 level yet, but when the news comes out later from the US, of course, it's only 40 pips away. It can get there when the news comes out for sure. All right, so I'll just be waiting for the news to come out at the moment and see where the price can get to any of the key levels. All right, give you heads up next week about what's coming out on the webinar front. We have more analysis next Tuesday from me. And I'm just waiting for this to load up. All right, so next 4th of July, next Tuesday. Analysis next Wednesday. I do a review of last month's price action. What can we learn from that? What patterns did set up? Been a little bit more difficult for patterns this month, but that being said, you can only trade what the market's offering you. Thursday, more analysis, and then on Thursday as well, whilst this is listed as Nathan, because Nathan's in this webinar, I am joining Nathan in this webinar. And it's a quick start webinar of how to get a quick start guide to getting going in the forex market. If you're brand new or you're struggling with a strategy and you want a very simple strategy that will give you entry levels, it will show you the trend on one chart across the day chart and the 1-hour chart. we have a setup that we've designed for beginner traders to get them going, instantly in a demo account trading. It's called the quick start setup. So I'll be talking about how to determine the trend. I think Nathan's going to be jumping in and showing then this quick start strategy based on the day chart and the 1 hour chart. But it's all set up on the 1 hour chart. You just look at the 1 hour chart and you trade it off the 1 hour chart, but it has a component in it that tells you what the day chart trend is too. So you're trading in line with that. So that's 6th of July. If you're interested in that, just register. That's 8 p.m. Sydney time. The first webinar is at 7 p.m. Sydney time. So that's what's coming out next week from me and Nathan. All right, everybody, thanks very much. Have a great weekend. Thanks for your company this week, if you've been with me, and have a great weekend. Thank you.